Hi there. Today we will be talking about the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership as it relates to the Market Development Program for Manitoba Agriculture. We are going to start with the Land and Treaty Acknowledgement. We recognize that Manitoba is on Treaty 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10 territories and the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabeg, Dakota Oete, Denisilan, Inuit, and the Nehethawik peoples. We acknowledge Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are the ancestral lands of the Inuit. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. Today, Jeff will be talking about the overview for the Market Development Program. Jeff?
Great, thank you, Karen. The purpose of this webinar is to introduce you to Manitoba's Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership Market Development Program. We will run through the program information and show you what it's all about. So today's discussion, we're going to start with the program description, eligibility, funding streams overview, cost share funding, eligible expenses per funding stream, ineligible expenses, application assessment, and finally, how to apply. Now, the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership, or Sustainable CAP, is both a federal and a provincial and territorial program, in that there are versions for each jurisdiction. Canada has its own version of the program. Manitoban has our version of the program, which is designed to be appropriate to the needs of Manitoba agri-processors, and other provinces and territories will have their own versions of the program, depending upon their geography and the needs of their processing and agricultural sectors. So Manitoba's Sustainable CAP program overall includes the following priority areas: climate change and environment, market development and trade, which is the one we're going to talk about today, building sector capacity, growth, and competitiveness, science, research, and innovation, resiliency and public trust, and Indigenous agriculture and relationship development. And if you were to explore the website for our program, I think you're going to find that there's something in all or most of these priority areas for Manitoba's processors. So please do visit the website and explore. So Manitoba's Market Development Program consists of 4 program areas: Market Information and Research Funding Stream, Market Development, Planning and Training Funding Stream, Product Commercialization Funding Stream, and Domestic and International Development Activities Funding Stream. So in order to find the program, you can navigate your browser to manitoba.ca/SCAP or SCAP, and you're going to get this site with a very beautiful graphics. So just scroll down the page here, and you're going to see a nice banner for each of the priority areas. The market development and trade is second from the top. You can just click your mouse on the little plus sign there, and it'll take you to a new page that gives you a little bit of brief information about the program. To learn more, you can click on the word learn more, or you can click on the little plus sign, and you get to the next page that gives you even more information. So it gives you a little broad perspective of the program, what it's supposed to accomplish for Manitoba and Manitoba processors. Then it outlines the eligible applicants, and there's a spot here that says intake information. And normally this spot will say the intake for this program is currently closed, or it may say it's currently open, depending upon when you're looking at it. And this will be updated accordingly. And I'll tell you how to find out more information about when those intake dates will be. So in terms of the program description, the Market Development Program will advance the agriculture, agri-food, and agri-product sectors' innovation and business capacity to maintain existing markets and capture emerging market opportunities. The program will provide financial assistance to eligible applicants for market development activities that enhance interprovincial trade and export capacity of individual businesses and improve overall domestic and international trade access for the sector. So kind of big picture there. Program eligibility, you may have noticed this on the website I showed you. It's agri-food processors, agri-product processors, abattoirs, brand owners, and Indigenous government businesses, communities, and organizations. Just to clarify, in terms of what we define as a brand owner, this may be an individual who is, let's say, a marketer. So, and their passion is to, let's say, create and market products that they may not be making themselves. Of course, we want to have them promoting Manitoba products, so they may be having their products made out of Manitoba co-packer or some other relationship with a Manitoba processor, and they take on the responsibility of the marketing of the products. Eligible applicants must be registered with the Manitoba Companies Office in Manitoba. This is something new. Must be directly involved in or affiliated with activities that contribute to the transformation of agri-food and agri-products into end products. Products can be involved in further value-added processing or be a finished product, and they must be sold directly to consumers. Have a significant portion of business sales revenue in wholesale trade, including sales to service establishments, retail stores, and wholesale distributors, versus direct sales to consumers. Provide a copy of their most recent balance sheet and income statement if their business has been in operation more than 1 year, or pro forma balance sheet and income statement, which just means forecasted, if their business has been in operation 1 year or less. So to clarify, new businesses are more than welcome to apply to the program. We just expect that you will want to try to demonstrate as much as you possibly can that you have a plan for your business, and it'll help show us what your plan is and how you plan to and intend to make this a successful business. And last on this slide is have a Manitoba premises identification number if you operate an abattoir. Carrying on, eligible applicant must ensure that they meet all program eligibility requirements and Manitoba and Canada government laws and regulatory requirements. A business with multiple divisions, operating names, or units will count as one business. Government of Manitoba employees who are the majority shareholder, which is 50% or higher, in a business are not eligible to apply for funding. Current or former members of the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba who hold an ownership interest in a business are ineligible or not eligible to apply for funding. Additional factors may be considered in determining the eligibility of the applicant, including the provision of false or misleading information by the applicant under other Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership programs, amounts due and owing by the applicant under other Sustainable CAP and Manitoba programs. Okay, let's look at each of the funding streams here. So market development will support growth and expansion of Manitoba's agriculture, agri-food, and agri-product sectors through 4 funding streams: market information and research, market development planning and training, product commercialization, and domestic and international development activities. In terms of cost share funding, activities are cost shared between government and the applicant. The cost share ratio is up to a maximum of 50-50. We say up to because if you were to submit a project that was $100,000 and the maximum program funding limit is $30,000, then you would not receive 50% of your total project value. It would be up to 50% to a funding limit of $30,000 per applicant per intake. The minimum project size that will be accepted per market development project is $3,000 worth of eligible expenses. So just to clarify, in terms of project size versus contribution, is the maximum project size you need to submit is $60,000 in order to receive a contribution or a grant up to the maximum funding limit of $30,000. If you are unsure about the eligibility of some items, then you can ask in advance or submit a budget that may be slightly larger, such as, let's say, up to $70,000. Then there's a little bit of padding there, so you're not leaving any money on the table. But really, there's not a lot of point of submitting a budget that is significantly higher than that. And as I mentioned, you're always welcome to ask us, and we'll provide you at the end of the presentation with an email address where you can reach out for that sort of assistance. In terms of the minimum project size, if you were to submit a budget of $42,000 and $40,000 of that budget is not eligible, your project will be disqualified due to being below the eligible project size of $3,000 of eligible expenses. And finally, funding is provided on a reimbursement basis. What that means is you need to have the wherewithal financially to make the expenditures for your project, and then you would submit a claim and you would be reimbursed on the eligible expenses that are on your budget. There are no advances given, and that's pretty common for grant programs nowadays. You really don't see anything in any jurisdictions where monies are advanced, except if there was a loan. So what's new? One highlight here is that the program funding limit is now per intake. Before it was per project. So depending upon how many intake periods Manitoba chooses to hold during the year will depend upon how often you can apply. As before, you can combine multiple projects into one application per intake. And please do not submit more than one application. If you have 4 different components of projects, let's say one is for branding, one is for trade shows, one is for business meetings, you need to combine all of that into one application. We will not accept multiple applications. In terms of dealing with that, if we did receive multiple applications, we may either choose the first one that is received and assess that one and disqualify the second one, or perhaps choose the one with the larger value. But we can only deal with one application per applicant per intake. Eligible expenses directly related to the execution and completion of an approved project are eligible. The applicant must provide expense details for each funding stream activity in the application worksheet, and there will be a subsequent presentation available for you that's going to provide some guidance about what we're talking about with respect to how to best complete the application worksheet. So this includes noting each expense in the appropriate category on the budget form and providing meaningful description of the expense item so it is obvious how each budget item relates to the project. The applicant is solely responsible for all project expenses, including all ineligible expenses and any project deficits or overruns. Applicants must consult their program officer if budget item amounts change. So changes are possible, but you're not allowed to surprise the program officer with those changes. You need to contact the program officer prior to making any changes to have them approved. Note that the program will not pay the applicant more money if they go over the pre-approved budget. So once you apply, and if your project is approved, the amount of the approval is locked in. So you may be allowed to make changes to the budget within the project if, let's say, one item ends up being higher cost than expected, or if you need to pivot somehow and change some of the costs due to unforeseen circumstances, that is perfectly allowed. However, you are not allowed to submit higher costs, and you would never be reimbursed for any costs that are larger than the pre-approved budget amount. Continuing on with eligible expenses, the following expenses are eligible for reimbursement. So this is a broad strokes list. All these items are going to apply to all 4 of the funding streams. So the following expenses are eligible for reimbursement: facility and equipment rentals, knowledge transfer, professional fees, materials and supplies, subcontracted services, travel for market development and export training, and in-market domestic and international business-to-business market development activities or events such as trade shows, missions, and meetings. In-market means markets outside Manitoba, and travel expenses within Manitoba are typically never eligible. This should be an easy market to cover, and therefore travel expenses in province are not eligible. And finally, provincial sales tax is an eligible expense. However, the good and services tax is not. The marketing of fish and seafood products to new or existing international markets will be considered an eligible expense under this program. All other activities which involve fish and seafood products will be considered ineligible or not eligible under this program. Okay. Having a little deja vu here. I think we talked about this already, but there is an important point to make here. So as you heard earlier, the Market Development Program will support growth and expansion of Manitoba's agriculture, agri-food, and agri-product sectors through these 4 funding streams. Projects must be completed by March 31st, the year following the intake period, and specified project start and end dates will be stated in the funding agreement. So that is something that is new, where the end date for all projects will be March 31st of the year following the intake period. So if you were to apply today, 1 year from now would be the on March 31st would be the end date for that. Okay, so let's run through some details for each of the 4 program streams and talk about eligible expenses that are specific to each stream and a little bit more detail about each one. So market information and research. The market information and research funding stream supports increasing marketplace knowledge and identifies the viability of a product's successful entry into a new market or expansion in an existing market. Eligible expenses include professional fees for consulting, agencies, or firms associated with conducting primary research and developing market intelligence reports and studies. Eligible expenses also include purchase existing marketing intelligence reports and studies. So they can be primary or secondary research studies. Also, too, is before you look to purchase any studies, please check in with the value-added branch, as we may be able to provide you with quality information for free. We have some different various sources we may be able to access on your behalf or pathfind you towards. The Market Development Planning and Training stream supports building business market development and export capacity that will address non-tariff related market access barriers and support business growth domestically and internationally. Eligible expenses include registration fees associated with market development and export training, such as workshops, webinars, and courses, purchase of educational materials that are directly related to market development and export training, travel expenses including economy airfare and/or ground transportation, hotel, and meals that are directly related to participating in market development and export training outside of Manitoba, and associated with applicants directly participating in retail marketing programs in store outside of Manitoba. And this is capped at $2,000 of eligible expenses per city per intake. And again, just to clarify, the 2,000 is the amount of the expenses or the project value, if you want to call it that. And at a 50-50 cost share, that means that up to $1,000 will be reimbursed to you for eligible expenses per city. So if you were going to do your own retail marketing, let's say in-store demos or something like that in Saskatchewan, and you're going to go to Regina and Weyburn and Estevan and Swift Current, each one of those cities, you can submit eligible expenses up to $2,000 for related to your travel. And I'll show you in a moment. There's appendices in the program guide where you can see the exact limits for the different travel expenditure categories. Some additional eligible expenses for market development planning and training include professional fees for consulting agencies or firms associated with creating long-term marketing and export plan to export products outside of Manitoba, developing marketing materials including designing a business logo, branding, point of sale, POS materials, and setup fees for production, developing and enhancing a website, creating a social media strategy, and please note that is for the creation of the strategy, never for the execution of the strategy, and expenses associated with participating in retail marketing programs in store. Now, where this last point is different from the one on the previous page is that if you wanted to hire an in-store demonstration person to do demos on your behalf, then you can submit those expenses or put those expenses as an eligible project. Okay, product commercialization supports the pre-commercialization, commercialization, and enhancement of new and existing innovative products. And innovative can be innovative to the market, can be innovative to your product line. It's really quite open in terms of the definition of innovative. Eligible expenses include professional fees associated with product development, enhancement, production scale-up, shelf life studies, and the design and acquisition of required information from a service provider to ensure label compliance, including nutrition facts table or NFT, ingredient listing, allergen declaration, nutritional claims, language translation, and label and package information review. Facility and equipment rental fees associated with the product development, enhancement, and production scale-up of a product. Professional fees related to performing product analysis, including micro-testing, pH, water activity, and sensory analysis. Creation of printing plates and setup fees for printing labels or packaging. And again, this refers to the printing plates, like the fixed asset, that you're going to use over and over again, hopefully, and setup fees for printing labels and packaging. It never includes the actual production cost of running a batch of labels or packages. Purchase of a commercial printer for barcodes, best before dates, and lot codes. Domestic and international development activities supports business expansion in new and existing domestic and international markets. Eligible expenses include B2B trade show and mission expenses directly associated with exhibiting outside of Manitoba. These include registrations, membership, and only if mandatory to exhibit, rental booth space, equipment, accessories, electrical, freezer and cooler space, contract catering services to prepare food samples and shipping fees related to shipping trade show booth, equipment, accessories, samples, signage, marketing materials to the trade show and mission and back to Manitoba if applicable. Participating in trade show B2B and buyer program, including registration fee and language translator. Travel, including up to 2 economy airfares and/or ground transportation, hotel, and meals. Please note that we are stressing B2B trade shows and B2B buyer program, so business to business. This program is not designed or intended to support expenses related to B2C or business to consumer trade show or events. This program is intended to help you develop business contacts and wholesale client relationships. Some additional eligible expenses under domestic and international development activities include B2B meeting expenses associated with meeting directly with new potential buyers and existing buyers from jurisdictions outside of Manitoba to build brand awareness, business relationships, and negotiate sales, including conference room rental, language translator, exhibit, demonstration, equipment and accessories, contract catering to prepare food samples and shipping fees related to shipping and exhibit, demonstration equipment and accessories, samples, signage, and marketing materials to the business-to-business meeting and back to Manitoba if applicable. Travel, including up to 2 economy airfare and/or ground transportation, hotel, and meals. And as I mentioned, we do have appendices that you can look at in the guide for additional information of program parameters and eligible expenses. They are quite detailed and quite lengthy, so I haven't included them here. Just showing you a snippet of these and just give you an example of some of the details. So Appendix A summarizes the program parameters. And as I say, see the program guide and we'll show you where to find that. Appendix B includes eligible business-to-business, domestic and international development activities, expenses. And finally, Appendix C shows eligible expense explanations. So it outlines what the eligible expenses are and different categories of those, and there are amounts as well. So you would use those amounts when you're building your budgets. Okay, so now let's take a look at ineligible expenses. And there are a few pages of these, but I think it's good to help provide you with clarity of what is not eligible, save you some time and effort and labor in terms of making up your application. I think you can also use this to hopefully answer any questions as to eligibility of certain expenses. So let's run through these. The following expenses are not eligible for funding. Where a project is approved, no eligible expense will be reimbursed unless a funding agreement is signed. So that's a basic requirement of participating in the program. Any expense, including a tax, which is eligible for a rebate, credit, or a refund, such as goods and services tax, not eligible. In-kind contributions, such as staff labor, use of capital asset and equipment, materials, consulting, technical, and professional services, example, in-house product and process research and development, testing, laboratory testing and analysis, or nutritional labeling and review. Those kind of expenses are not eligible. Expenses incurred outside of the dates listed in the funding agreement. Expenses not directly associated with the eligible expenses approved in the funding agreement. Regular and ongoing operating expenses associated with conducting business operations. Regular and ongoing maintenance expense, such as repairs, upgrades, and replacement of existing capital assets and accessories. Extended warranties, expenses associated with lobbying, financing charges, loan interest payments, bank fees and charges, any compensation to any government employee for organizing or delivering parts of the project, purchase of any capital assets and accessories. With the one exception being the label printer that we mentioned and traceability printer that is eligible. And that's an exception made for the sake of convenience because labels often are associated as a marketing tool. So therefore, for your convenience, we've included that one asset as an eligible item. Carrying on, capital investments such as building land related to establishing a commercial business are not eligible. Expenses for office renovations, multi-use items such as computers, tablets, phones, cameras, batteries, clothing and footwear, tools, tents, canopies. So we have seen computers and tablets and phones on our applications, and they are specified as being for a specific purpose. And I'm sure they are, but however, they are ineligible because of this reason that they can be used for other things, not directly associated with a specific project or activity. Project-related activity that generates revenue during the execution of the project is not eligible. Travel expenses incurred by professional service providers related to conducting primary market research and developing market intelligence reports and studies and participating in retail marketing programs in-store outside of Manitoba are not eligible. Purchase of labels, packaging, and promotional materials. I already mentioned the setup and the design of these kind of things are eligible, but the actual production of these items is not. Printing expenses, marketing intelligence reports and studies, labels, promotional materials, same story as above. Regular and ongoing subscriptions, listings, and registration fees related to market intelligence and marketing activities. Regular and ongoing website use and maintenance fees. Trade show expenses related to paid advertising and promotional activities such as demonstrations, product showcase, show guide advertising, badge inserts, trade show online advertising, decals, show inserts, social media or influencer campaigns, marketing material giveaways, and sponsorship of events or initiatives. These are all very legitimate marketing tools. However, none of them are eligible for reimbursement in the market development program. Ingredients, semi-finished or finished products for product development, enhancement, scale-up, sensory analysis, and shelf life studies are not eligible. Label, barcode, or quick response code acquisition and printing. In-market marketing activities that do not have a significant wholesale focus and that are mainly consumer focused. So that could be farmers markets, flea markets, festivals, fairs. So I had mentioned earlier that business to consumer activities are not eligible for participation in this program. That includes those which are held within Manitoba and those which are held outside Manitoba. Expense related to attending a trade show without exhibiting is not eligible. You must attend a trade show as an exhibitor for those expenses, such as travel, to be eligible. Trade show booth design and labor to set up and dismantle is not eligible. Signage design and labor for setup and dismantling. We're almost there. Further ineligible expenses include network-focused activities and events, trade show samples, trade show insurance, rental of telecommunications and Wi-Fi, trade show booth cleaning, vehicle rental insurance and parking, in-market market development activities that are subsidized by another business and government, such as the Canadian Pavilion Program, and professional fees for consulting agencies and firms associated with identifying, contacting, and securing in-market leads and negotiation sales. And just a comment about the point above regarding in-market, as noted earlier, in-market refers to markets outside of Manitoba. All right, just a couple more points and we can move on. Final and eligible expenses to share with you include expenses associated with the hospitality or sponsorship of an activity or event, and expenses incurred more than one day before and after a domestic trade show, mission, and business-to-business meeting, or more than 2 days before and after an international trade show, mission, and business-to-business meeting. Okay. Next thing we should discuss is application assessment. So application worksheets will be assessed based on the following information. And as you will see, if you choose to watch our webinar regarding how to best complete your application, you'll see that we've now identified the value of each section of the application insofar as scoring is concerned. Every application that is received is assessed by a number of professional assessors, and a score is attached to those assessments. And that is used to inform the selection process of applications that will be recommended for funding. So the following assessment criteria are project description, project deliverables and outcomes, alignment with program objectives, such as the creation of new jobs or increased payroll value, an incremental increase in processing value and volume, an increased use of Manitoba Agri inputs, the production of goods which displace imports from outside of Canada, an increase in domestic and or international trade sales, and an increase in the value or volume of production of plant and animal proteins. Capital and financial capacity, so that's your financial ability to pay for your project upfront, because as I mentioned earlier, there are no advance funding provided. You need to pay for all the project expenses and make a claim, at which time you would be reimbursed for eligible expenses. Your management capacity, production capacity, and finally your marketing plan. How to apply for funding. The applicant information form and application worksheet are available on the Manitoba Agriculture website. Please visit manitoba.ca/scap and click on Market Development and Trade. And we've already shown you how to navigate to that point. And as mentioned, there are other funding areas that are relevant to you. So by all means, please explore the rest of the site. Manitoba Agriculture will publish deadline dates through their newsletter, website, and social media channels. So please sign up for those. The applicant must complete all applicable questions within the applicant worksheet. Incomplete application worksheets may result in the delay or rejection of an application. Project funding sources and amounts must be declared on the application worksheet. Failure to disclose all funding sources for a project may nullify the funding request. So it is possible for you to access other funding programs. We just ask that you tell us what those are. There's a page within the application where you identify all the funding sources for your project. And I'll just note here that the anticipated contribution from this program is not to be used as one of your funding sources, because as mentioned, you're not going to have that money to spend until after your project is completed and after you've made a claim to the program. And finally, the applicant information form and application worksheet must be submitted to the program administrator by the Market Development Program's specified deadline. Late application worksheet submissions will not be accepted. The intake for this program is currently at 6 weeks, so that should be more than adequate time to write and submit an application. From our own testing of the application, you're not looking at hours to write and submit an application. It'll be significantly less than that. A couple more points about how to apply for funding. The applicant information form and application worksheet can be mailed to Manitoba Agriculture at agriculture@gov.mb.ca. Applicant must acknowledge and agree to any terms and conditions contained in the application information form, application worksheet, program guide, and program terms and conditions. I've mentioned now two different forms, the application information form and the application worksheet. I should clarify that the application information form is a really short form where you just provide your basic contact information, location, address, those sorts of things. The application worksheet is the actual document where you would tell us about your project, about who you're selling to, about your sales, your marketing plan, all the different things that we've mentioned would be included in your application. So that's what those two documents are. Only the applicant may sign the applicant information form, application worksheet, and other program documents. So it must be a signature, an official signature for the company. Applicants must comply with all Manitoba and Canada government laws and regulations applicable to their projects and to their business operations. Applicants must also accept and agree to all the terms and conditions of the program. In the case of sole proprietors, partnerships, and corporations, a designated person with legal authorization must sign the applicant information form, application worksheet, and other program documents. The program administrator may require proof of authorization. Finally, funding for projects will be subject to the appropriation of funds by the Government of Canada and Manitoba. Project activities must be completed and all reports submitted on or before March 31st of the year following intake, or no payment will be issued unless otherwise stated in the funding agreement. So once you apply, there's an assessment, and from that, you will be recommended or not for funding. If you're recommended for funding, then it goes through an approval process. And if you're approved, then you would receive a notification letter indicating you've been successful with your application. And then from that point, you'll receive a funding agreement that you need to sign and return to the government of Manitoba. In terms of next steps, we suggest that you also view the webinar that provides step-by-step instructions about how to fill out the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership, or Sustainable CAP Market Development Program application, or application worksheet, as we've been calling it. If you have any questions about eligibility of specific expenses, you can contact us. If you would like a review of your application prior to submitting it, you can contact us. If the intake for a program you would like to apply to is currently not open, you are welcome to contact us. If you would like to receive Manitoba Agriculture Value Added Branches Information Circular, that includes updates on program intake periods and lots of other great information, including relevant events and things that are going on in our sector, you can contact us. And for all inquiries I just noted, this is the email address where you can contact us. It's mbagriffood@gov.mb.ca. That's Manitoba agrifood@gov.mb.ca. And this concludes the overview of the Sustainable CAP Market Development Program. Thanks for watching, and good luck if you choose to apply.